Hey, Coach Patrick here. Welcome to another Coach Videocast podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about a mid-season gear check, sort of an important part of the process moving across a year, and hopefully an opportunity for you to stop problems in their tracks and maybe even help create better conditions for success in those final weeks and in the big race itself. And so when we hit mid-season, it's a good time for us to take stock of your key gear just to see how it's been handling your training. As an endurance athlete, you have high expectations of yourself, of your body, of your sort of mind, everything. And we extend those same expectations to our gear, but not all pieces of gear are made equally. In fact, some pieces of gear are designed to fail, or we know that they're lightweight enough that they will fail. And so how do we make sure that you don't have a failure at the worst possible time? Well, we do it by having a mid-season gear check. So let's work backwards from that worst case scenario, which is problems at the worst possible time. So a great example of this is a runner who discovers that 4 weeks out, just before their last long run, they've started getting a little bit of shin splints and their shoes are done. They need a new pair of shoes. They can't run in those shoes for the long run because they know that they're shot. They're feeling the pain now. But they're going to get a new pair of shoes by, say, Friday for the weekend, but they haven't broken those new shoes in. What's a runner to do, right? Well, a runner needs a time machine to go back and say, it's, like with 10 weeks to go, 12 weeks to go, these shoes are about halfway done. They're not going to make it. If I had a mid-season gear check, I could have bought the new pair of shoes at that point in time and then done a couple strategic runs to break them in. So the transition would have been seamless, right? Or maybe even space it out, alternate those runs such that you could have taken your happy all season long go lucky pair of shoes and nursed them along so that you could actually race in them, right? Because all shoes want to race, right? Of course, right? That's a key example of something that goes wrong that can impact not only your race itself, but from your health perspective, but from key training situations. And that's the last thing that we really want. So what we want to do now is take a good look at a couple different things. First of all, identify that key gear for yourself. So if you're a triathlete or a runner, ultra cyclist, whatever it is, you've got a couple key pieces of gear. Now's the time, just brainstorm it, write them out, okay? So for runners, obviously starts with our shoes. It works its way back up to like our nutritional stuff. It goes over like shorts, technical gear, etc. For many runners, you're transitioning from sort of cooler weather into warmer weather. What does that mean for you, right? For cyclists, we're definitely taking a look at the drivetrain, the components associated with it. We want to make sure that those are holding up under strain. You've got more miles to go and big miles on race day. When's the appropriate time to make the change that we need so you can be successful, right? If you are like an ultra runner or so on, then there's a period of time in your season when you're going to be doing some really significant miles, and you're going to be doing them in all sorts of conditions. As such, your shoes, your gear, all those things can really get broken down. So when you're thinking about what it means to go through this mid-season gear check, you want to be taking a look not only at the shoes, but all that ancillary gear, like your hat, the hydration jacket and thing that you wear. How's all that holding up so you know you can be successful? Is it going to last you through race day? Is it going to keep you happy? What's that going to look like? So that's really, really important as we go through this process, right? Another piece of the mid-season gear check that I think is really critical that people don't do is take a look not only sort of at the visual side of it, but take a look at some of the data. So those shoes, you may not be the best judge looking at the bottom of your shoe right now saying, oh, my shoes are worn out or not. But the miles don't lie. You've got a training log and it'll tell you just how much work you've done. And for me, using that data also becomes a great chance to set a reminder. So I may look at that data, let's just say middle of your year happens to be July. You look at July, you pull out the shoes, you look at them, you're like, meh, didn't look so bad. Keep going, right? That's not so great. If we, in July, pulled out our training log and said, last time I got a new pair of shoes was 250 miles ago. I know my shoes usually last about 350 miles. I'm going to set a reminder for myself right now that to buy a new pair of shoes in 3 weeks. That's a great way to take advantage of the active and positively focused mindset you have now, making sure that your future self is smart enough to remember to buy the stuff that you need. Now, some people have done this at the beginning of the year and they've set the sort of incremental milestones. But for me, I like to approach it on a more of a discrete schedule and in a way that allows me to still remain in control without over-managing my time. I don't need reminders every week. That's too much. But I do like to have those reminders, key points in time. And this mid-season review is fantastic. I mentioned earlier as well that sometimes we're transitioning through weather cycles. And so sometimes the gear that you've had to train through the winter and spring is not the gear you need for the summer, right? So perhaps you need to up your game in terms of more heat responsive materials in terms of the gear that you're wearing. Perhaps the long run tights you've been wearing have been great, but now you're moving into season, you need shorts, and oh, lo and behold, you don't really have any shorts, right? So you want to make that right decision. And using this opportunity in the mid-season gear check allows you to do it in a proactive way, so you're not making decisions that are more costly at a later period of time. Excuse me. For example, needing a new pair of shoes overnight, that's costly. Needing a new drivetrain on your bike and having to have it installed before this weekend, that's costly. It's costly in terms of time, it's costly in terms of money. Whereas if we plan ahead for it, we do the right work, we'll be in a great place, okay? I'm sure many of you have good ideas about mid-season gear checks. I'd love to hear from you on our Facebook page over at facebook.com/Endurance Nation. One last example I'll give you is also from a nutritional perspective. A lot of times we move from the winter months where it's cooler, we're not as desperate for calories or hydration. As we get in season and we do more racing, we're trying to get more race specific, then we actually do need that hydration, we do need that fuel. And depending on what you use, you may be consuming a great deal more of it. So the stores that you've had over the winter, well, they're disappearing rapidly. And the last thing you want to do, I've done this, is hit your weekend and on Friday realize you're out of your drink mix. And then you don't have drink mix. And you got to go to the store and buy like generic stuff. Hopefully you can make it work, because there's nothing you can do between now and the weekend. And when you get a delivery, there's no drones in my area. You're not going to get that delivery until later on. So even from a nutritional perspective, it's a good opportunity to check in. Those of you who transition from a training bike to a racing bike, for example, that's another great example. You want to make sure you're checking out both. Want to keep them both happy. Don't want to make sure that the training bike's all set, but you transition to the race bike in 2 weeks, and guess what? Race bike's not ready. Again, use this mid-season point. Let's pretend we're sort of at the peak of a mountain here, but you can survey all around, and we can say, what are all the things from an equipment perspective, be it physical equipment that I use, to physical equipment that I wear, to nutritional stuff that I need. How do I make sure all of that is continuously in working order so I can be successful? Remember, the closer we get to race, the more important every single session becomes, and the more important that every single session is exactly what you want it to be. And that requires not only the integration of your schedule with your training in terms of your daily work, family life, but also the intersection of peak gear, where you can make sure that you're doing all the work you can and you're supported by that gear. There's nothing worse than having the fitness to do a great run, but ending up with a really poor long run because you didn't have the nutrition or you didn't have the hydration to support your efforts. All of this is simply planning, and it's a good opportunity for you to check in. I find that every once in a while, stepping back, lifting your head up, and being in a position to make that macro level system change and take that perspective on where you are as an athlete mid-season only contributes to your overall success, because otherwise you're relying on mistakes, you're relying on problems to be your indicator. And more often than not, when you do that, by the time that problem has arisen, you already have something that you've got to deal with. It's going to take away from your ability to do other stuff as well. So do yourself a favor, mid-season gear check, head over to Facebook. Let me know, what is your favorite mid-season gear change item, where it's a piece of equipment you wear, piece of equipment you use, or nutritional stuff that signifies for you that you're moving from training to racing and is something critical to make sure that you're successful in that transition and all the way through race day. I look forward to hearing from you guys online. This is Coach Patrick from Endurance Nation signing off. I'll see you guys online or at the races.